here, he seems to indicate that these are the illnesses. These are the actual illnesses that are problematic, shall we say. However, they are not the illnesses. They are symptoms of the illnesses. And these illnesses are not only related to what I've been talking about, which is our daily dietary intake. And that is a profound cause. I mean, if you want to talk about systemic imbalances, that is a major systemic imbalance, our daily eating habits, because it affects every aspect of our lives in terms of our emotions and our thinking and our feeling, as well as our spiritual activity, our spiritual life, if we have one at all. And everybody actually does, except they don't know it. So he goes on to talk about the fact that during the Clinton administration, China was given the designation of most favored nation status. And this was a strategy to bring China into the world global situation. And because China has been cultivated by the American, shall we say, criminal elite, what I call the blue bloods of the criminal elite. And I'll get into who the blue bloods are, because there's criminal elites which are riffraff and hoodlums, and there's criminal elites which are blue bloods. I mean, there's those both aspects are there, and I will talk about those later. And they're both subhuman. All of them are all subhuman. And what I mean by subhuman is that they are, shall we say, ego addicted. They're addicted to their own egos. And no doubt cocaine plays a great role in that. And they're all, sniffing cocaine. All these people. So this China situation, I have a source which I consider to be very reliable and has been researching this whole aspect of the blue blood criminal elite. And he's been researching it since 1979. And he's got a host of data. And his name is Charles Savoie, Savoie. And all his articles are archived and are accessible to the public. And you can get that from silver-investor.com. And just read all his material. His latest one is actually 438 pages long. And then it's all there. But that's one of many that he's written over the years. And at any rate, one of the photographs that he showed was Rockefeller, the patriarch, with Chinese government officials way back during the time of Mao Zedong. Yeah, right. So, this has been, to think that the Chinese government is acting independently of the ruling criminal elite is totally absurd. That is really absurd. They bought into it. By the way, I didn't mention that the major bank that launders the money for the narcotics military operations is the Bank of Baghdad. And guess who runs that? J.P. Morgan. Well, what do you know? So, the fact is that the Chinese, and this is what Jim Lee has to say, my suspicion, not quite a firm belief, is that the Chinese were dealt a hand in helping along the agenda of the ultra-elite in the castle fortresses. Their plan involves debt slavery, population reduction, that's one of their big priorities, genocide. They want to bring about a reduction of the world's population by at least a third, preferably 50%. Because they see what I see and what I've told you about. that the current eating habits of the United States and the developed countries and China and various other places are unsustainable. The earth cannot support it. So there is this policy to try to eliminate, in one form or another, I mean different methods. I mean they tried it, a couple of years ago with this quote-unquote avian flu pandemic. That turned out to be a farce. Anyway, that's one of their goals because they're terrified of overpopulation. Now, as I mentioned, overpopulation is only a problem if we continue to eat meat as our daily eating. You know, our main source of quote-unquote nourishment. But they're not about to promote the idea and support eating whole grains and vegetables as your staple food. And the main reason being that there's no money in it. There's none. You know, I've been doing macrobiotics for 30 plus years. There's no money in it. Not the kind of money that these people talk about. No way. And you can make money out of it. After all, it's just daily food. The reason why they can make money out of promoting meat eating is because of all the consequences that arise as a result of that. And of course, this drug use is very profitable. Okay, before I talk about that, they want concentrated power and stripped liberties. Ruin of the Western economies was required and accomplished by the turn to Chinese industry with its cheap labor. In the new globalization model, the West cannot compete. The lost industry and lost ages were a prescription for the elite agenda. Now, I certainly go along with that analysis. Now, this is a banker quoted by Jim Woody, who has inside sources all over Europe. And he says here, the guys trying, he's talking about the banks, the guys trying to escape through the back door are all getting shot. It is incredible to see these arrogant bankers break down in visible ways as they realize that things are coming apart. The boys, that means the ruling criminal elite, who thought they had things well planned and engineered, are getting buried by the avalanche they did not see coming. Alright, of course this avalanche has to do with the implosion of the currency system, the fiat currency system. You know, the bad debts, the sovereign debt problem, etc. It's all crumbling around their ears. And there's absolutely nothing they can do about it except to just delay the inevitable. They won't take their medicine. Of course not. They're not going to do that. However, their medicine is coming to them willy-nilly. The real crash will come this autumn. By June next year, many extreme pivotal events will have occurred. The current United States of America is now a failed nation. And I've been telling you that all along. But I call it the smashing itself to pieces of the United States. And not the only country that's happening. I mean, it's happening in Britain, in the United Kingdom. I mean, we just saw 4 weeks ago all the looting and pillaging and burning that went on in London, and not only in London but also in Birmingham and Liverpool, you know, and that's just a harbinger of things to come, not only in Europe but also in America, and that's deliberate, and I keep telling you this is all deliberate, and to not understand that is to not pay attention to what's going on. And what I'm here to tell you is to not, I mean, if I didn't think there was any hope, I wouldn't even be talking to you. But I do. In fact, I know there is. But you have to have the right strategy. When you're dealing with an opponent, such as we are, that means the rest of humanity. The criminal ruling elite comprise 1/10 of 1% of the world's population. They are the opponent. So it's really important to understand what they're up to. It doesn't really matter who they are. It really doesn't matter. The point is to understand their machinations and what their intent and what their plans are, so that you can make the appropriate choices. That's really what I'm all about in terms of the Mobuku Chronicles. I don't see any point in protesting or marching in the street or anything. No. As I said earlier, the macrobiotic way of life is entirely subversive of this modern culture. Entirely. But the beauty of it is nobody knows that you're a subvert. You're subversing the culture. Totally. And then I mentioned that you have to go back to earlier episodes to learn what I said about how when you start eating whole grains and vegetables as your staple food, you're acting to subvert the entire modern culture. Which of course is what needs to happen. And it's going to happen anyway. So we need to take steps to be warriors in this battle. Because this battle is definitely taking place. As I said, there's a hard battle between beauty and ugliness, between lies and truth. There's a hard battle going on. And not to understand that we are participating in that battle is simply to become a victim of it. All right then. There is enough backbone. This is what this guy says. And I believe it's true. There is enough backbone in the people of America to pick up the pieces to at least get their lives back. Now there is enough backbone. People just listen to me. And people like me. And mind you, I don't think anybody else is saying what I'm saying. I haven't come across it. Everybody seems to dance around the edges. They're not really willing. They don't have the intellectual courage to say what needs to be said. Everybody talks about reform, and the banking system needs to be corralled, and the rule of law needs to be, shall we say, re-established. These are all just symptomatic remedies. They're like Band-Aids. There needs to be a totally radical rearrangement of the table. We need to wipe the slate clean and start afresh with a radically different concept, which is what I'm going to give you. And I'm in the process of giving you. The point is, we need new ideas, new imaginations, new concepts. Not the same old, tired, worn out detritus from Roman imperialism or medieval feudalism. We don't need that. The two-party system is just finished. It's not working. So to think you were going to elect anybody that's going to be able to change this, it's like what Christ said. You can't put new wine into old wineskins. Because if you do, what happens is either the old wineskins burst asunder and the new wine is lost. Or if the old wineskin manage to hold itself together, the new wine rots. It goes bad. This needs to be clearly understood as to what needs to take place. And in the course of time, I will reveal what needs to take place. But as I said, a lot of this takes a lot of preparation. We have to take it one step at a time. And I need to give you a lot of preparation because a lot of the things I'm going to say you've never heard before. Never. Okay, now this is a quote